can you see this person's perspective,
Right.
but can you see beyond this barrier that is in front of you right now? And we do get to that place of gratitude and actually appreciation. Now, it takes us refusing to stay in a victim mindset in order to do that.
We are not staying in a victim mindset. We invite you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is
Hello,
Launch Date. I'm Devon.
I'm Teri. Good to be with you guys today.
And today we've described this as problem potpourri. We're going to open this up to everybody who is watching today. And Elizabeth, always, she pops on there. I just love it. I know that my friend Tammy, who I saw last night, she said, I put that thing on to notify me when y'all go live. So if I have a break at work, I'm just going to pop on over. The cool thing is we are here, whether, we take the shows and we leave them up, and we've got all sorts of things that we're going to be able to help you with. And Teri also does one-on-ones with people, and virtual or in person. And Wayne has joined us. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Got to meet Wayne in person.
I did not. I'm feeling a little salty about that. Don't take that personally, Wayne, but next time I have an expectation.
Like we do. Like we do. I don't know where Go Flamenco is calling, is texting in, but I bet one of our friends from Spain might be joining us.
Nice. Welcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all over the world, people. And Wayne is like, yes, next time. He was a little busy.
I know.
He and Elizabeth and everybody. Yes, Go Flamenco. Yes, watching in Spain. That's fantastic. People are all saying things like, okay, Elizabeth had like a slumber party. I think there were like 80 people at her house.
Nice.
I want you to invite us to the slumber party, and we'll make our way over if that's even possible. You guys, today is our problem potpourri, and we're going to kick things off with one that popped up today on Facebook, and that is the loss of a pet. It is so hard when you've got a pet that cements into your life, especially, I think, single people that have their pet that is their sounding board, their comforter, their thing. Let's kick things off with grief over a pet. It's acceptable for an employer if you have the loss of a person in your life, you can take some time off. Let's talk about the loss of a pet and how that affects you and how to move through that.
Well, as I start with all topics on grief, it's all such an individual journey. But you were right. Some folks acknowledge the loss of a pet, acknowledge the loss of a person, but do not acknowledge the loss of a pet. And you're absolutely right. Animals, our fur babies, as we call them, they can be emotional support animals for us, but they're also family members. And so when we have when one of our, babies transition, for that particular person, it is losing a loved one. I've worked with people before that will say, losing my whatever, husband, wife, sister, brother, best friend, is nothing like losing a pet, because people will say, I know how you feel. I just lost my pug Rosie a couple of years ago or last month or whatever. And people who have lost a human they get a little, my word again, salty about that, because there's this comparison, right? And people are like, well, that's just an animal.
Right.
But to someone who is living alone, or maybe their animal is their closest ally, confidant, and friend, losing that pet animal,
Right.
is that companion is to them like losing a person. So there's no comparison when it comes to our losses. No one loss trumps another loss.
Right.
And no one grief is deeper than another grief, because it's all individual. And our grief and our losses should not become pissing contests where we're trying to make sure that people know how much we're in pain or how much we hurt. We all know it. If you've had a loss of a loved one, be it two or four legged,
Mm.
then you know what that loss feels like, and you know what for yourself that grief is like. So, having conversations with people who, if we are talking about one of our four legged companions, um, having, or three legged if they're a tripod. I mean, let's just be
Hmm.
real, right? So, having a conversation with family and friends, workers, coworkers, and bosses to let them know, and being able to take time off. You might not get paid for it, but honoring that relationship and honoring your emotional well being is essential to your overall well being.
One of the things that I have found is that to give someone comfort when they've lost a pet, because of what I do, because of the books that I write and things, I get a lot of people who will reach out to me when they've lost a pet.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I always say to do is look for the visitations.
Mm-hmm.
It's a strange and uncanny phenomenon that happens when I look for the visitations. I had Henry, who passed away. He was 21 years old, a little miniature schnauzer. He was the oldest dog ever. And the day before, he was looking for moles. He loved to dig for moles. And he went on to heaven the next day. 2 days later, from the time he was hunting for those moles, I went out to my truck. He wasn't anywhere around, obviously, but there on my running board was a little mole that was left for me. And I took that as a visitation. And people can call it woo woo if you want, but they're weird, strange things, like a horse that passed and a bird's nest falls down from the tree and it's lined with his hair. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he was home. And so I always think that it's very important to look for the visitations.
Or another passing that you had with your horse, and when you guys were able to move her body, the outline of her was
Oh,
embedded there, in not just in the grass, but the gravel, like a
it
shadow
was.
form of it
Mhm.
there. I remember when I was out there visiting you and Stevie. That was.
And I know it was a crazy thing, and that she passed away. It was she had cancer and she left, but literally her imprint, the shadow was right there. And it
Mhm.
I think that everybody needs a chance. And Elizabeth saying my fur babies are definitely my children. And there will be people with children who will look askance at us and go, it's nothing like that. Oh no, because my cat or my dog has never looked at me and at the age of 12 and said I hate you. Has never
Well,
said no. It's there, an unconditional thing that comes from animals, that's a different plane.
and again, it's not a pissing contest. So if you
Mhm.
have never had, I work with people who have never had children, right? And
Mhm.
their animals are their children. Now, whether
Mhm.
or not they could have children, couldn't have children, chose not to have children, lost their child, whatever.
Mhm.
And then other people will say, well, it's just not the same. Well, that's your perspective on it. And that can be respected, but you can't project
Right.
that onto someone else and discredit their grief or their loss because it doesn't fit the diagram that you have created for yours.
That's
So
right.
we have to be fair with our grief. And unfortunately, because our society, our world, well, I can't really say world, that's inaccurate, but our society particularly does not embrace grief. So we don't
No.
talk about it. And we've talked about that. I won't go on that soapbox, but we don't talk about it. So therefore it becomes a one-uppance almost. Like you just never understand.
Mhm.
Well, you might not understand having an experience of losing a child if you don't have children, but the next thing closest to that for you is your fur baby, which is your child.
Right.
So you do have a connection and an experience with it.
We have moving on to addiction. We've talked a lot about substance addiction. Let's talk about addiction to people. I always refer to myself in one of the fellowships that I sat in the rooms with. I'm addicted to my own head, addicted to staying inside there.
Mhm.
addicted to getting and mulling things over, and I can't stop the thoughts about something that happened in the past or something that happened, something I can't let go of, a person I can't let go of even when they're bad for me. Let's talk about addiction to people. And if you're watching this right now, leave your comments if this is something that you've dealt with.
So, addicted to a person. I can't let go of that. You can. It's a choice. It's prioritizing. And it's also finding out, and you know this question, and I can already feel the eye roll, but I know you know this question. What are you getting out of staying stuck in that pattern? How is that pattern serving you?
Mm,
You know, what part of you, and here's the thing, I don't want to get all science based on you, but neurologically, when we are imprinted with experiences in life that tell us that a person or persons are safe, secure, and fundamentally required for us, then we have a hard time. It's not the person we don't want to get rid of, really, if they're a toxic person, it's the feeling that we're safe or the feeling of security,
mm.
and we will take those breadcrumbs and they will withhold the entire slice or loaf of bread, and we will continue nibbling on the breadcrumbs because we're hoping one day, maybe if, only if I change, if I do this, if I become better. You're perfect just the way you are. You don't need that damn loaf of bread. Go get your own bread.
Go get your own bread. Now write that down. That is a write it down from Teri. Get your own bread. Good morning to Tim. Good morning to Junior. Elizabeth says, "Oh, a good choice. Sometimes very hard to let go, even when we know we should." The question to ask: what are you getting out of it? And that's something that's really hard to face for a lot of people. I'll
Hmm.
raise my hand on that.
Sure.
Is because when we have someone that we have cemented with because we can help them, because we can uh, be indispensable in someone's life, then we won't be abandoned.
We
That's
also
it.
have to.
That's our thinking, you know.
Right. And we also have to understand that if this person that we are indispensable to and that we are constantly helping, if they are a healthy person, they're going to want to help themselves and they're equally going to want to support us. Many, many times we get in relationships, friendships, platonic, intimate, whatever relationship is with someone or people in general. And this can be one person or a congregation of people where when we step back, we realize there's only one person dipping in and pouring out, and that may be us. And if you recognize that, then the battle within starts with, but I'm just a good person.
Oh
I
yeah.
just want to help. You know, I don't want to
Mhm.
be taken advantage of. I'm just a good person. Well, that's a complete contradictory right there. Because no one is saying that if you take care of yourself or you step away from this toxic situation, you're not a good person. In fact,
Right.
I would argue that you are a good person because you're taking care of your whole self, you know?
Addiction to imagination, awareness of meditations that can lead into wishful thinking.
Hmm.
Yeah, think about it, and you can
Hmm.
think them better than what they are. You can
Oh,
imagine them better than what they are. But it used to be. But it used to be. But it used to be.
hmm.
Well,
Well, I
you,
used to could get in the jeans I wore in high school too, but we're talking about today, right now,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
that's what we have to look at. We have to
yeah.
look at, yes, it used to be this, but what is it now?
Look at it now.
Well, but it used to be, and it's like, but used to is the past. Used to is the past.
Right. And we hang on to that, hoping things will go back to that, but nothing, um, you can't step in the same river twice.
Well, and
You,
as human beings, we are
mhm,
created to evolve. That is what we
mhm.
do. Everything is born, everything grows and learns. And look at trees. They start off little, they grow, they lose leaves, they get more leaves, they lose more leaves, they lose bark. Eventually, It evolves. The tree evolves. We are made to evolve, not to stay in those woulda,
Right.
shouldas.
Elizabeth, what if we make a conscious choice to stay where we are?
Then you have to decide, is it valid to complain about that?
See, she does this, y'all. She asks you those questions, and you go, and you kind of, and it, like you say, it, pricks just a little. It,
Well,
ow,
it's
you know.
this. Look at it this way. What if, let's take a relationship for instance. What if there were two people in a relationship, and one person says, "I'm a homebody. I never want to go anywhere. I never want to do anything." And you're a social butterfly, and you make the decision, well, I love this person, so I'm going to be with this person. I could stay home. I mean, I will love that. I will get used to it. And then over time, whatever that time frame looks like, a month, a year, 5 years, whatever, you decide, you know what? I miss doing what I used to do. I want to, and I don't mean
Mm,
go out and turn the town up. And if you want to turn town up. But I'm talking about, maybe it's flea markets, maybe it's dinner with friends, maybe it's whatever, riding bikes, whatever. And then you recognize, you know what? I miss doing that stuff. So I want to, I see that, Wayne. So I want to do these things, right?
mhm,
So then we have to, if we say, but you know what? No, I'm just going to stay home. I'm going to stay home and watch whatever with you. Wild, whatever that thing used to come on, sports, Wild
mhm,
Wordle Sports or whatever.
mhm.
Um, then you can't really pick up the phone and call mom or sisters or best friend and go, oh my God, we don't ever do anything. We just stay here all the time and I just don't like it. And da da da
Mhm.
da da. You're choosing that. Now, if you got a group of friends that are just going to sit there and go, girl, you're right. You should leave that fool. Well, then you got to figure out why you're doing that. You're getting a need
Mhm.
met through a secondary party that you're not getting met through your situation,
Ooh, yeah.
and that's never
Liz,
going to fill you up.
yeah, Elizabeth. Well, dang, I don't complain about it. I should leave, but I'm happy and satisfied with this friendship. Okay.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. If you're happy and satisfied with it, then that works.
If it fulfills you, then there's nothing you get to decide if it's fulfilling for you mentally,
Mhm.
emotionally, spiritually. If it is, great. If it's not, you get to decide what you want to do about that.
Tim, exactly, darlings. 100%. Had to do that myself and learned so much about myself after I did. So much happier, content, and love much more, deeper, complete, content, and rooted when we know we deserve more and better. Amen. Love y'all. We love you too, Tim. Thank you for bringing
Yes,
that
yes.
in. And Tim's like, zing, zing, go ahead.
Well, and also to something that Tim just said, we know we deserve better, but we have to understand what our better is. My
Ooh,
better may not be what your better is,
mm-hmm.
Devon, or may not
Right.
be what Elizabeth's better or Wayne's better or Tim's better, but my better it's individual of what works for me. And we live in a society where we want to clump everything together. Well, this is just what's best. And it's like, well, wait a minute, you know, maybe that's not best for me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's not best. Maybe what's best for me is not what's best for you or, someone
Right.
else.
And here's another thing. There are some people that think that releasing someone from your life that is not benefiting your life, or you're not, or if it's one-sided or whatever, that there has to be some big confrontation,
Oh,
that
yeah.
there has to be some breakup. There has no. I've learned that when you, I bless you, I release you, let them become a dandelion. Let them literally be that figurative thing in your life. It doesn't have to be a big confrontational parting of the ways. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it involves legalities like divorce or separating a business or separating a home. But sometimes it's literally as simple as I love you, I bless you, I release you, and it goes. And sometimes it doesn't have to even be that. Sometimes it's a mental I
Yeah.
release.
Well, here's the thing. I work with people often that have been through divorce, but they still love and respect one another. They still are, they can be compassionate to one another.
Mhm.
Again, we live and have created, we don't just live in, because we didn't just all bounce into this world and it was just like this. We have all
Right.
created this. And I
Mhm.
say we collectively, I'm not pointing
Right.
fingers, but we have collectively created a world where, in order for an ending to happen, we have to be angry. We have to be,
Mhm.
one, somebody has to win. And that's first non-effective. And secondly, it's just not true. We don't have to
Mhm.
do that. We can have endings that are just as pleasant as beautiful beginnings. We can have
Mhm.
beautiful endings and beautiful beginnings, and we don't have to fit that conformative way that things that people think things should be. But the minute that you talk to
Right.
someone and you say, well, I think I'm going to leave this job, or I'm going to leave this relationship, or I'm going to leave whatever, I'm going to move on,
Right.
I've outgrown this, I'm going to move on. 9 out of 10 times there's somebody in your tribe, your team, your corner that's going to go, I hear you. You need to get out of that, because a lot, and they start. And the minute that
Right.
someone starts, you have to ask yourself, why have I taught this person that this is how I want them to respond? And secondly, if you don't want them to respond that way and you care about that person, hey guys, I know that that's how you feel, but that's really not how I feel about this situation. I'm
Right.
perfectly content moving on and having respect. I might not be warm and fuzzy and have a ton of love and want to go out and hang out all the time, but you know what? I don't have to talk trash about you.
Mhm. Yeah. Society, Elizabeth says, has rules that don't always apply to us, our situations, or life. That is true. TV, media, movies, whatever, because somebody wrote a script and this is how it's shown, doesn't mean that's the way we have to do things. We can do things differently. Mona, we love you too. I'm so glad Mona's
Love you, Mona.
right here. She says, I tried to be able to get along with my ex, but he continues to be mean. I'm good though.
So there you go. Exactly, Mona. You set your intention of, this is how I choose to show up. And if that person doesn't show up that way, you know, then you can choose to keep doing it. Or you can say, you know what? I'm just going to give you that space. I don't have to hate you, you know. And I refer to humans sometimes as feral humans, and I know Devon, you've got experience with feral kitties and whatnot, and it's the same type of thing. We come at it with love and compassion, and I'm good. I want this to be pleasant, but they might not want it to be pleasant, or they might not have the tools to allow it to be
Mm,
pleasant. So you show up the best way you can, and if they scratch and bite,
mm,
then you allow them some space and you work on it. But if they just choose not to be that way, have a conversation with them.
mhm.
Would you prefer us not communicate? Yes, I would. Okay, I wish you well, and I'm going to let you move on with your life.
Right.
You know,
And I've learned that we cannot change what people decide to say about us. That's a very important thing, is that and I will stand right in the guilty spotlight. I have worried about what people were saying about me behind my back. I've worried. And I thought, okay, it's my reputation or whatever. But truthfully, what people think about me is none of my business. That's a phrase that's tossed around. If you stop, literally, why does it really matter what this person thinks about you or what they say about you? Because when you boil it down to having your ride or dies, knowing the people who will be there in the foxhole with you, I look at it this way. If I find out, I was like, okay, great. I at least know who's really in my camp and who really isn't. Tim says, preach, amen. What's the best interest for you and your self worth and content? No, I learned to walk away. Like Tricia Wood sang, walk away, Joe. Walk away, Tim. Just walk away.
well, and part of that too, part of the reason why we have a challenging time um, leaving or letting people, being okay with people seeing us in an unfavorable light, is because neurologically from an early age we've been imprinted with we're sweet, we're kind, we're good, we're troublemakers, we always want attention. We've been imprinted with this information. So as we evolve, we that becomes a belief. It becomes an expectation. It becomes a internal
Mm,
narrative that is on loop continually. And we are not, I tell this to people all the time, and it's a rule that I personally genuinely strive to live by. My experiences are no one else's but mine. Doesn't matter if there's two people in that experience. If there's two people in that experience, there are two separate experiences
mm,
within that experience. It's fractions, right? Breaking it
right.
down. They're not necessarily going to see it the way I did. And I can be bent out of shape about that. Or I
Hmm.
can just say, you know what? I get it. You have your own truth about that.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes in that, depending on how you break away and how you're releasing, there can be a lot of mud slung. And if you're not careful, you can easily be pulled back into a familiar pattern that may not resonate with who you are as an individual, but because it's become a pattern, patterns don't just disappear overnight. You can ask anyone who has been in any 12-step program. You're working that every day for the rest of your life. Some days are easier,
Mhm.
some days are a lot more challenging. But that patterned behavior, that patterned thought, that patterned need is there. It's there.
Oh,
That
truth.
is not, that is just the way the brain patterns. And you can create new patterns that can
Hmm.
even be more powerful and override those patterns, but they're still there.
Ooh.
They're not like, I started to say wrinkles on your face, but I guess people can have those taken off too. I'm not
Yeah.
going under the knife to have any of mine taken off. So once a wrinkle is there, that baby's there. I can plant tomatoes in it or something. I don't know, but it's deep and it's there, and I'm okay with that.
Let's talk about Joy. She says, I lost my cousin this past week in an
Mm,
unexpected stroke. He's my age, and it made me be in a mood of assessing my life and wanting to make changes in my life.
yes.
On Main Street today, had a same conversation with Killer Bees. If you didn't see that show, it's up on the web now. You can watch it. When we are faced with our mortality, it makes us a little less anxious to keep things status quo if it's misery.
Yes. Yes. And Joyce, I'm sorry about your loss. I know
Mhm.
that, unexpected expected is horrible, unexpected is equally horrible. So know that I'm sending you lots of love. So,
Mhm. And she says, I've always worried about what people think of me and put myself last.
girl, we got to talk.
Yeah.
You got to, well, you don't have to do anything. People can stay in that pattern their whole life, but you're worth not being in that pattern. We all are. We all are.
We are worth not being in that pattern. It is the day when we decide not to earn someone's love, but
Hmm.
just accept the love that comes our direction. And it's out there when we create a vacuum and open ourselves up by not taking in all those people that are clinging to us for their life force. If we literally leave the open spaces, good can pour in. We're afraid that good won't pour in, but it does. Tim is so sweet. So sorry, Joyce. Sending you lots of love, hugs, and happiness, darling. Tim has been dealing with his own loss, and he always has this unsinkable heart that he brings to the conversation. So thank you, Tim. Thank you. Elizabeth, your opinion of me is none of my business. Hear that in the rooms all the time. Yes, it's where I heard it. That's where I heard it.
Hmm.
I will say that if you have not gotten help, there is a 12-step program probably that is open, and it's some of the, I'm not going to be a proponent of anything, but there is a fellowship probably that can help you get into a 12 steps of getting your life back on track, that it's inexpensive and it is a way to get your feet wet and get used to opening up. I'm just
Hmm.
saying it's there. There's some really wonderful. So I will say you can reach out to us if you have any questions about those particular things, or to see us on a one-on-one. Man, I tell you what, we've gotten into some topics today.
We
Crazy,
have.
right?
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautifully crazy, just like this crazy, chaotic, overwhelming, absolutely luscious world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Life is crazy sometimes, and it's just a ride, right?
Yes, Elizabeth, I firmly believe working the 12 steps should be a class in high school, would be great for just about everyone. Yes, yes, having integrity. When we're wrong, promptly admit it. I mean, there's so many great things that we can bring from those just by sitting in and being honest. Just by sitting in a room and being honest.
Absolutely. And I think that is my opinion. I think that a lot of people, when they hear 12 step or support groups, they cringe because it's like, oh, I can't. No, that's for those other people that have issues. That is not. We all have issues. Who are we kidding? Shit, we all have issues. But here's the thing: if you are living life however you're living it, and on a daily
Right.
or an every other day you're feeling like something is just not right, I'm so tired of the way that this is going, I'm so exhausted, you are the only person
Mm.
that gets to change that gets to shift that into another way. And you can't quite see what waits for you on the other side of that veil because you're stuck in the muck on this side. So the choice is stay stuck in the muck and keep wishing for more, or step just beyond that and be courageous
Whew.
enough to take what comes to you, because it's either this or something better.
If you are
This or something better.
if your pitcher, if your bucket, if your container is full of taking care of something toxic, bad, something that there's no room for blessings to come in. So you may give the idea that there are no blessings, but if there's no room to pour into you because you're so busy taking care of everybody else, you don't know how much good is waiting for you. Got Shelley weighing in. Thank you so much for all you do to empower the women of our community and for being a shining example of confident and strong women. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you,
We
Shelley.
and it's really not gender centric because we got,
Oh,
this is for everybody. This is for
absolutely.
everybody. Um, Elizabeth, that's what I thought exactly. Then I ended up an alcoholic, needed them. The rooms we're talking about,
Sure.
12 steps.
Now, and here's the other thing I want to say is I did see Flo's message pop up about they appreciated the conversation about the visitations. And girl, don't get me started on woo woo, because I'm going to tell you, we can have a whole show on that. People be running from the hills going, Teri is batshit crazy. And I'll just say, like, yes, I am. And I'm okay with that. Because you know your truth when you know your truth, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Energy is energy. It just changes shapes. That's all that is. So yes, we can absolutely dip our toes off into that at some point. That is a staple in my life, and I don't run from that at all. So um, we'll get back to that topic on another full 30-minute set.
We might even do another problem potpourri show. Have you guys enjoyed this? And I love how you guys bring in what you do. We're going to close our show and make it just a little bit longer, and we're going to say our goodbye. But to make it nice and seamless, D. Vincent Williams and Philip White wrote a song that Rascal Flatts recorded called "I'm Moving On," and I remember hearing it sitting in a sports bar, and David D. Vincent Williams was playing live, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. It just hit me, and it was a true song that he experienced in his own life, but he made it so specific to him that it became specific to all of us. So we'll close with that song. But Teri, what's your final words, girl?
My final words are I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your week. I'm going to be in a car heading up to the New England states to see the fall foliage. So I will be posting pictures and whatnot.
We'll
And
have to bring some on to next week's show too.
what's
Some of
that?
those pictures. We have some of those pictures in next week's show.
Oh, yes. I agree. In the meantime, thank you, guys and gals, for joining us. And we appreciate you so much, more than you know. And I hope you all create an amazing day and increase the peace.
Absolutely. TeriPugh.com, Transcending Turbulence on Facebook, Devon O'Day at Gmail. Closing with I'm Moving On.
Mwah.
This song here, as a lot of y'all know, changed my life in an enormous way. I was quitting the music business. And I wrote my bitter Nashville song. Oh, you can bring it on up here, my friend. This is Brock, right? Brock? How you doing, Brock? How about a hand for Brock, man? What a great job. I have a feeling this is not water, Brock. Am I right? Cheers. Cheers. Come on, make some noise. Cheers, Brock. Oh, man. Ooh, Mama, get ready. I wrote my bitter Nashville song, started with the second verse. I've lived in this place and I know all the faces. Each one is different and they're always the same. They mean me no harm, and it's time that I face it. They'll never allow me to change. I never dreamed home would end up right on the lawn. I'm moving on. Little did I know that I was getting the greatest songwriting lesson of my life. But I learned that it's not about being clever. It's not about being creative. It's about being honest. And I got that lesson, and it was an amazing turn of events to turn that into this song that Rascal Flatts cut and became a song of the year. And, as my good friend said, why would you quit now? You're finally ready. And it goes like this. I've dealt with my ghost and I faced all my demons. Finally content with a past I regret. I found you find strength in your moments of weakness. For once I'm at peace with myself. I've been burned, blame, trapped in the past for too long. Place and I know all the faces. Each one is different, but they're always the same. They mean me no harm, but it's time that I face it. They'll never allow me to change. But I never dreamed home would end up where I don't belong. Made up my mind. Well, I sold what I could and packed what I could. Stopped to fill up on my way out of town. I love like I should, but I live like I should. I had to lose everything to find out. And maybe forgiveness will find me somewhere down this road. I'm moving on. I'm moving on. I'm moving on. Thank you so much.